If I had a dollar for every time I've said compound interest on this channel, I probably wouldn't need to talk about investing anymore. So I'll only say it once here because this video isn't about money in particular, even though I will be referencing back to money. This video is really about all the other areas of your life where growth compounds just as powerfully as your money does. For a long time, I equated wealth strictly with dollars and account balances, and it's only been recently that I've started to redefine what wealth and abundance actually means to me. Real wealth shows up in strong relationships, a healthy body, steady faith, disciplined daily habits, and yes, of course, solid finances too. But if you only focus on financial compounding, you're leaving massive returns on the table in every other category of your life. I'm not claiming to have life completely figured out, so just hear me out on this one and understand that these are just my examples of ways to build wealth outside of finances as a 27-year-old engineer. And I'm genuinely curious, what does wealth mean to you outside of money? Or even financially? Does that version of wealth look like owning a mansion, driving a Lamborghini? I want to hear that too. So drop it in the comments. Let's get into the discussion. We're going to start with the most obvious one, and honestly, one I just finished doing before sitting down to film this video, and that is lifting weights. To me, this is one of the clearest examples of compounding outside of money. Nobody walks into the gym and benches 225 on day one. And if you do, that's good shit, and maybe you need to walk on to your local NFL team. But for 99% of the population, you walk in feeling like a complete beginner and a complete noob. You don't know what half the machines do, your form is very sus, and you're watching other people trying to figure out if you're even doing the lift that you're doing correctly. And you're definitely not walking out with a six pack after 1 week in the gym. And for the first few weeks, sometimes probably the first few months, it feels like you're making no progress. You're going to be sore, you're going to be tired, but if you show up consistently for 365 days, maybe even stack on a couple years of that, I promise you, you're going to notice a difference. Not because of one perfect workout, but because of accumulated reps and being consistent in the gym over a long period of time. Doesn't that sound pretty familiar? It's sticking to a workout plan that is tailored to you and works for you. Some people want to get shredded, so they're going to do more high intensity workouts, and others may want to bulk, so they're going to leave cardio out of the equation. It's also understanding that there are going to be great workouts and there might be some terrible workouts on days where you don't even want to be in the gym. But you don't quit because of one bad gym session. You zoom out and you look at the big picture and ask yourself, why am I here? You trust the process. That's why I love the lifting weights comparison so much to compounding interest and finances. It's the same principle. So let's dive into example number 2 while we're still on the topic of health and fitness, and that's dieting, which, if I'm being honest, has probably taught me more about discipline than lifting ever has. Because dieting forces you to respect your ability to harness your self control. There's not going to be a shortcut around dieting because it's as simple as this equation: calories in minus calories burned equals calories left over. You see how this can be directly tied to another personal finance topic? Money in minus money out equals money left over. That's simple budgeting 101. It does not take a brain of Albert Einstein to figure this one out, but it is somehow so hard to follow, and I'm not even perfect at this either. There's no secret loophole where calories just don't count because maybe you had a tough week. It doesn't work like that. What's worked for me is not chasing the extreme 30-day cut. Cough, cough. This can equate to the get rich quick scheme. What's worked for me is building habits that can be sustained to make my life easier in the long run. I'll give some examples here. I meal prep good food on Sundays, so I'm not running out of food in the middle of the week. I keep protein high in my meals so I'm full and not constantly snacking. These habits make it easier to succeed than to fail. You set yourself up for success by doing the little things. You want to be someone who trains and eats nutritious foods so that your overall health can compound in the right direction. This can also go in the wrong direction just as easily. If you do not take care of your body and you do not get out and exercise, you will negatively compound your health. And this takes years of discipline to get your dieting right and to get your body moving, and it certainly won't happen and change your lifestyle overnight. So the next comparison I'm going to make to compounding interest is building a new skill, because this one hits close to home for me. Whether it's stepping into a new role at my engineering job, taking on responsibility I'm not fully comfortable yet, getting better at speaking and communicating, starting this YouTube channel and putting my thoughts out there for thousands of people to see, every single one of these required stepping outside of what felt safe for me. And for most people, if we're being honest, most people like being comfortable. I like being comfortable. But you have to zoom out and ask yourself what's waiting on the other side of a little bit of discomfort. You really think on day one, posting on YouTube, you're going to be polished and confident, smooth on camera? Hell no. You think on day one of your 9 to 5, you're going to have everything figured out and operate just as well as the senior engineer? Not a chance. What actually matters is that you just keep learning, keep adjusting, and keep pushing yourself. The biggest mistake I think people make is thinking that learning ends as soon as your schooling ends. If anything, your real learning starts once you're out of the classroom and responsible for your own life. Let's be honest here. How many of you guys truly remember all those math equations and science classes from school? I certainly don't, and I'm really glad that's not even taking up that much room in my brain to remember. When you adopt the mindset that you're going to keep improving and keep learning, your ceiling of potential will be endless. And that brings me to the next point, which is establishing daily habits, which might honestly be the most underrated compounding force of them all. Everyone says they want freedom, success, financial flexibility with their lives, but almost nobody wants to do the boring daily routine that'll support those dreams and aspirations. It sounds simple. You wake up on time, go to bed early, take care of your living situation, the list goes on. But you'll be shocked at how many people sabotage themselves by not taking care of the small daily habits. If you want to build a side hustle, but every afternoon after work it turns into hours of scrolling or watching TV, you're never going to get to where you want to be. If you say you want to get that promotion at work, but you're constantly leaving early, avoiding hard projects, doing the bare minimum, that compounds too, but in the wrong direction. The same thing happens with investing. Let's say you don't build a habit of saving or automatic contributions or living below your means. 10 years will pass, and one day you're going to look up and wonder what went wrong for you. The last compounding force I want to talk about is faith, or more broadly, just having something bigger than yourself that you're orienting your life around. Because just like lifting, dieting, investing, building a skill, your faith doesn't start off amazing on day one. It grows the same and compounds the same just like everything else does, through repetition and commitment. For me personally, I'm a Christian, so that means showing up to church on Sundays even when I'm tired, listening to those sermons or podcasts, and wrestling with questions instead of just ignoring them, trying to improve. It's about showing up week in and week out, year after year. And over decades, those small, consistent choices will shape the character and your moral compass. When I zoom out and look at all of this that I just talked about in this video, fitness, skills, habits, finances, faith, the common thread here is delayed gratification and compounding your life in the right direction. We live in a culture that celebrates shortcuts. Everyone wants to see the highlight reel on social media. But the most meaningful transformations in your life will be slow, and most people won't even recognize them. There will be long stretches where it feels like you're putting in so much effort, but nothing to show for it. So if you zoom out 10 years from now, the version of you who trains consistently, keeps learning, invest automatically, you can go back in this video, everything I talked about. Your life is going to almost look unrecognizable compared to the version of you who constantly chases comfort and short-term gratifications. And what's wild is that the gap between those two lives won't come from one decision. It's going to come from the thousands of small ones over a long period of time, the quiet choices nobody applauds that compound your life in the right direction. So that's really all I had for this video. I want to talk about that compounding isn't just all financial, and I wanted to share with you the aspects of my life that I'm working to compound in the right direction. So I'm curious, what are you compounding in your life right now outside of money? Drop it in the comments. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.